Well, that was Mr. Julius Aburi, the national chairman of the Labour Party. His position right now is in contention because quite a number of people, I mean, a significant portion of the people in his party do not agree that he is their chairman. They recognize instead the caretaker committee that they have put in place. And he was addressing addressing the press in the aftermath of the Supreme Court judgment, which he says affirms his position as the chairman of the Labour Party. Well, the National Executive Council meeting of the Labour Party held, and he wasn't there. And, you know, there were calls that he should sheath his sword and join them. But he continues to insist that he is the chairman of the Labour Party. Well, this morning we're looking at that issue and a host of other issues with Mr. Laolu Akande, who is a former presidential spokesperson. Mr. Akande, it's good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you guys.
Good morning, Mr. Laolu.
These are some of the issues we saw play out during the week. That of the Labour Party was right there on the front burner. We heard Mr. Julius Aburi, first of all, warning Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections, not to convene any National Executive Council meeting. But not only did they go ahead to convene it, almost anybody who was anybody in the Labour Party was at that National Executive Council meeting. Subsequently, we saw them proceed to INEC to give INEC a certified true copy of the judgment of the Supreme Court, which they say affirms their stance, rejecting Mr. Julius Aburi as the national chairman. How do you see this being resolved?
Well, I mean, I think that first and foremost, it's important to speak to Mr. Julius Aburi that he is required at this moment to show a bit of charity. You know,
charity.
Charity, yeah, which is a very unusual thing to ask a politician. But for the good of this country, Labour Party at a point represented a significant hope. You know, don't worry whether the presidential candidate went as much as he wanted to, but Labour Party showed that something new can brew out of this country in terms of politics. You saw a new and a vibrant mobilization of the people. It's good for our country. Now, since then and now, we've seen how all of that is beginning to unravel. But what has happened this last week is a renewal of hope in the Labour Party. But Mr. Julius Aburi is the only obstacle. And of course, you know, people around him who don't really, just like you said, they don't form the significant essence of the party. Everybody that mattered in that party seemed to have gotten the right memo. Look, the time for Julius Aburi is over. Now, if you come to the legal part of it, it was Julius Aburi that went to court to stop INEC and the party, you know, from not recognizing him anymore because his tenure had elapsed. Yeah. And so the matter proceeded from the High Court to the Appeal Court, and now the Supreme Court has said it is not our business. So that means the matter has reverted to where it was when Mr. Aburi went to court, which is that he is no longer the chair of the party. So it's just a question of time that Mr. Julius Aburi is going to fizzle out. What I'm asking him today is to show a bit of charity.
When you say charity, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, to just do the right thing, keep his the remainder of his honor. He can keep it so that he can exit in some dignified sense.
Yeah, but that will be showing himself a bit of charity, not the party.
I agree. You know, that's the point. You know, certainly that's what I'm saying, because it's very clear already.
We heard Governor Oti talk about the fact that he had exhausted all kinds of attempts to get Julius Aburi to, you know, start to play ball with the party and everything. I want to be able to get your thoughts on why he would be holding on to power, listening to everything everyone has said. One of the things that he said that particularly made me sad was, why would you want to rule over people who don't want you to rule them? Absolutely. So why do you think he's holding on so tightly?
Well, okay, now, so I won't address the fact that we want him to behave charitably in a way that is not the usual thing. you must understand also that Julius Aburi also represents the typical Nigerian politician. So it's not that Julius Aburi is behaving out of context. This is how the average Nigerian politician behaves. Personal aggrandizement. That's the only reason why Aburi is still playing all these tactics. He still wants to be there because that is what suits him, that is what he wants to do, that is what he considers to be the best thing for him. And that's why we're saying that, look, ultimately, you cannot, to your point, if you think you are leading people and there are no followers behind you, you are just taking a walk in the park. That is what is going to happen to Julius Aburi. But we are saying that there is still an opportunity. Do yourself a bit of good by just rallying around the other people and say, how can we save the party? Why must you be a sit-tight chairman of the party after your tenure has elapsed? For God's sake, somebody needs to do Julius Aburi a bit of good and call him to his side and say that, look, come on, Labour Party is greater than you.
I just want to know how this is going to be resolved, because the Labour Party is not leaving it to chance. They have taken their message to INEC and say, look, INEC, we no longer recognize him as our chairman. This is a Supreme Court judgment, and we want you to effect that leadership change in your recognition of who we say is our own party chairman. How do you think INEC will play?
I think INEC is going to do, you know, what is common sense. The Supreme Court's ruling is very clear. You know, I was watching PoliticsToday yesterday, you know, and Shane was reading out, you know, we could see it, you know, and you could go and read the stuff. It's very clear that Supreme Court has rejected the chairmanship of
Julius Aburi.
Julius Aburi initiated the case, you know, and it has gone to the point, and INEC, the Supreme Court has ruled clearly that there is no merit, that, look, let Labour Party go and sort out itself. And then Julius Aburi comes around and say that, Nenadi is not a member of the party. OT was a member of the NEC. The NEC is the highest ruling organ of the party after the convention. Aburi is the chairman, and what Aburi controls really is the National Working Committee.
The NWC.
Yes, which is under the NEC. So it's the convention, the NEC, and then the NWC. OT and OB, they used the fact that their membership in NEC to decide that Esther Nanadi will be the acting chairman, at a time that Julius Aburi's tenure has elapsed. It's a very simple thing. Aburi has considered himself to an obstacle. Supreme Court has said that you cannot be an obstacle, and yet he still has the audacity to go out and be talking the way. So I just don't understand.
Do you see external influences here?
It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
Because it's not Julius Aburi. There's also Mr. Papa, who's also speaking up and saying he's also chairman.
Well, you know, he is the deputy chairman, but their tenure has elapsed. You know, there are other members. If you look at the case very well, there are other members of the NEC who are still in office. The duration of their tenure is still persisting, okay? But Aburi's tenure has elapsed. Akpankpa's tenure has elapsed. You know, and so
political forces outside pushing this?
Well, we don't have any evidence, but, you know, we will rule it out. You know, but let's just talk to Aburi and say, look, help Nigeria, Aburi. You can, you know, because Labour Party properly organized brings a bit of fresh air. We saw it the last time. Why is Aburi constituting himself into an obstacle?
Big question. But let us move on very swiftly now to Rivers, which is where we see another major controversy. This week, the sole administrator did not seem to be shying away from it. He decided to appoint 23 local government administrators, like himself, sole administrators. And Samila said, look, you were appointed sole administrator. We're still debating just how constitutional that is. And then you go ahead to appoint local government. And then this is in light of a Supreme Court judgment saying that, you know, local governments should be headed by elected local government chairmen, and that funds should not be given to any, caretaker committee that is appointed by anybody.
Yeah.
So there are big questions around what is happening in Rivers State and the constitutionality of it all.
Yeah, it's honestly, you don't even know where to start, because the action of the president is unconstitutional. The National Assembly that is meant to try and, sort it out, did it in a very shoddy manner. Okay? So we are left with a fait accompli of some sort. President says that, look, I can't sit down. The National Assembly, which has the powers to say, okay, Mr. President, calm down. Also, they said, no, please go ahead. And then chose to do it in a very brazen violation of the Constitution in our very eyes. They put it to our eyes that, look, it doesn't matter, we do it the way we want to do it. Now, the ball now moves to the court of Admiral Abbas. And you will expect that he would be advised, just like a proverb in my language, that if you are sent an errand of slavery, you deliver the message as a freeborn. So let's even assume that, look, everything is messy as we have seen, but okay, they said that it's okay. The National Assembly said that we approve it. The president said I must do it. The administrator should conduct himself in a way that can soften the situation. What he's doing right now, I imagine that, yes, he has to take steps, but it's not, it's not as careful as it could be, even in the circumstances. It's not as careful as it should be.
Would he be taking decisions without the president? When this sole administratorship was created,
yes,
he was to take his instructions from the president.
Yes.
So the president is basically overseeing his actions. Would these actions be without the president's knowledge?
Well, I don't think that the president, based on what we know, is going to be monitoring him on a daily basis.
For something as crucial as local government administrators.
Yeah, I don't think, what I'm saying is that he has enough space and leverage to handle things. It's a military man. Look, our military institution is one of the best in this country in terms of their training, in terms of their experience, even in terms of the comportment. When you see an average senior officer, you see a bit of discipline, you see a bit of, so I would expect him to conduct these affairs in a very subtle, very soft, in a way that rallies everybody, try to build consensus, rather than be just doing things. For instance, we know in this country that even when military governors were in place, okay, and they can't have local government, they use the most senior civil servant in the local government to run the affairs. We have done it in this country over and over again. What is the use of you going to appoint administrators when we have that experience? That institutional memory is still there. You could use the director of administration, who normally is the highest, civil servant in local government, to run the place. It has been done over and over again, and they are competent. So we need to advise Mr. Abbas that, look, you can do this thing with a lot of care. If they have asked you to deliver a message of slavery, you owe it to yourself and to your own reputation to deliver it as a freeborn.
Big issues, because in Rivers State, there are those who argue, and I think the MBA has also made this point. As a matter of fact, there's a mild protest of sorts. They have moved the venue of their conference now to Enugu instead of Rivers State, which was supposed to hold it initially, because they say they cannot hold it in an environment where they have held that what has happened in that state is unconstitutional. So it would seem that they're giving it some sort of endorsement by holding their conference there, but they moved it now to another state. Now, I'm wondering now, looking at, not just the appointments that he has made, the general governance situation in Rivers, would you say that his appointment has had any effect. I think let me track back a little. There are those who say that the appointment that was done and also the fact that a state of emergency was declared suspends democratic norms in that state. And so we cannot be expecting that, oh, some things will follow democratic attitudes or would follow democratic nuances, as the case might be, and that he is well within his rights to make these appointments. Do you agree with them? Do you see any reason there?
Well, so yes, he's the administrator of the state. He has the mandate of the president and the National Assembly to be there. So yes, so he has to run the place. So we shouldn't contest that.
No, not just the mandate now, but the fact that when a state of emergency is declared in a state, it does mean that some rights and privileges have been suspended.
Oh, yes, of course. We have to consider that, even though we have, ab initio, a very serious fundamental disagreement about what had happened. We don't believe that the president has the powers. We don't believe that the National Assembly that does have the powers and do this properly.
Yeah, and they don't believe also that they had gotten to the situation where you had to declare that in the first instance.
Exactly. But having said all of that, well, the man is there. He has been given the job. He should do it, and he's going to have to make some appointments. What we are saying is that, he should understand that the way the people of Rivers are beginning to talk about this thing is like an injustice has been done them. And I agree with them. The people of Rivers State have been treated unjustly. And any time that justice is not the center point of governance, it is a big problem. Look, I mean, this is one of the things that I learned being in government for 8 years. You could be doing a lot of things. You could be building infrastructure. You could be doing big social investment. If the people feel that they are being treated, there is no justice, every other thing you do doesn't matter. Because justice is at the center of our humanity. So if the people of Rivers State feel that they've been treated unjustly by the president and the National Assembly, then every other thing doesn't matter. And that's why people have said that, look, Mr. President, you can still reverse this thing. There is still good time. I don't understand how even the political advisors of the president will suggest to him that even if you want to take over Rivers, this is how to do it. I don't understand.
Speaking of political advisors, you heard about the resignation of Mr. Hakim Baba Ahmed? Did you make anything of it?
The vice president's advisor.
Political advisor.
Well, I think that Baba Ahmed, if you look at his history very well, I was even surprised that he came into government. That
he took the job in the first place.
Baba Ahmed was one of the harshest critics of an APC government. So to even see him take that, I thought that was below, but hey, he's a Nigerian, he chose to take it. So I would think that him leaving is a signal, of maybe him returning to where he belonged. I think he gave the idea a chance, and it doesn't seem to be working. That's how I'm going to interpret it. The man just said, you know what?
Back to River, I can't stop thinking about the fact that this sole administrator cannot be acting in a vacuum. I can't get over that thought in my head, because the appointment of sole administrators for the local government, that's a very critical aspect. It was one of the biggest bones of contention in this whole situation. For him to make this decision, and I want to get your thought, you said the president would not be monitoring him back to back. For something like this, is it possible that the president doesn't know or didn't give the instruction for this to happen? Because it's one of the most important issues in this matter.
Okay, good.
I can't believe personally that the sole administrator would make this decision without the president being aware.
Okay, so Killer, let me explain, how the corridors of power operate. I mean, you were in the villa also with us. A lot of things get done in the name of the president.
Okay.
That ultimately the president may not be the one instigating it. But what you then find out is that the president, depending on how he thinks about it, may decide to do as if he didn't see it. Or if he really feels that it's not something that he approves, then he withdraws it. So it is possible.
So that's the issue. That's the reason why they believe that he would, people online at least believe that he knows that this is going on. Because if he didn't want it, by now there would have been something said by the presidency. Oh no, we don't accept this. But nothing is being said.
Well, you know, yeah, you're very good point. But let's see. The president has been away on a retreat. You know, so let's see what happens, because there's quite a bit of clamor, and there are those who still believe that the president will probably, you know, see reason. I know some of his very closest aides, some of his closest allies, who don't agree with this thing, and who told him that he shouldn't do it. So I think the president himself is trying to sort this thing out, and hopefully I am still praying, because I don't understand why, you know, and people say, oh, Obasanjo even did worse. You know, yes, but, you know, Obasanjo and Tinubu, they have different pedigrees in Nigeria's politics. And it will be utterly disappointing if Tinubu, you know, does worse than Obasanjo. That would be utterly disappointing.
Well, certainly left there for the president's, well, I say, legacy writers to ponder and perhaps advise accordingly. Mr. Laolu Akande, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise.
Thanks so much.